Welcome back to the Adaptive Athlete Podcast, the place for hearing stories of adaptive athletes in the CrossFit space and beyond. I'm your host, Matt Hotho. On today's episode, we're talking with Sean Eberle. Sean was born with a rare form of dwarfism, which you'll hear more about in the episode, but that hasn't stopped him from living an incredibly active life, including being an adaptive CrossFit athlete. But as you'll hear as we start the episode, Sean has so much more going on in his life, including some amazing volunteer work that he does, raising service dogs, leading a prison program, and taking mission trips. So you're going to hear all about that, his CrossFit journey, and some encouragement that he has for coaches working with athletes with dwarfism. Check it out. Welcome back to another episode of the Adaptive Athlete Podcast. I'm here with Sean Eberle. Sean, how's it going this evening?
I'm doing good, Matt. How are you?
Good, man. Good. So we are on a video call right now, but this will be an audio podcast. So unfortunately, nobody's going to get to see your awesome office setup with the LED lights behind it, everything like that. But what you do have over your shoulder is a picture of some dogs. And you were telling me about work you do raising and training animals and dogs. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I am super in love with my dogs. And that has carried into, I've loved training them. I love working with them. That has kind of evolved into fostering some dogs, working with some folks in the neighborhood just with their pet dogs. And actually, currently, I am a puppy raiser for Canine Companions, which is a service dog provider in the United States. So I have a puppy, Yale. He is just about a year old right now. I'll have him for about another 6 months. I just work with him daily. I take him most places with me to get that socialization. And then I'll turn him back in for some additional training for the specific task that he'll provide somebody.
So you kind of baseline? You kind of like get him out to baseline kind of for where he needs to be?
Exactly. Yeah. So puppy raisers, it's all volunteer basis. This program breeds their own dogs. And then they go to puppy raisers. We take them to puppy class. We take them on outings pretty much everywhere. He's like my shadow.
Yeah.
And then, he'll go on and get the rest of the training.
What led you to want to do that? That's like such an interesting thing. Like, so for a while I taught a class for soon to be dads at the hospital, and it was like, I was like, hey, this is a blast. Like, I love just kind of, helping dads through to this next chapter of their life, that kind of thing. But for me, it was like it was like, man, I feel really passionate about this. So I know you have to feel passionate about this. What's the thing behind that?
Yeah, I think it's just a longing to give back. And I think it's using my gifts that I've been given to give back. So fostering is really cool. It ultimately ends up ideally with a pet finding its forever home, more than likely pulled from the shelter. So you're saving a life in that aspect. But this one's really cool because everyone asks, is it going to be hard to give him back? And the answer is yes, but also like he's going to go on to do some really big things for somebody. So I really believe in that. And it just comes from a place of wanting to give back.
Yeah. And I also think there's got to be this element too of like launching, getting to watch Yale launch out, and kind of, maybe you'll get to hear about his story, like almost like a child, like the ability to go, okay, hey buddy, go out there and do it on your own.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's such a cool organization. I can't speak highly enough about them. The litter that Yale's from, we have a Facebook group. I follow all of his siblings. They're all across the country. And then you'll run into somebody in public that either has a service dog from Canine Companions or has some connection, and you find out that Yale is like a half sibling, or, they have the same bloodline, and it's just a really cool like network and organization. So
that's so cool, dude.
Yeah, and actually I failed to mention this to you yesterday. It's actually led me to lead a prison program for Canine Companions. So a couple times a month, I actually go to a federal corrections institute to teach them. They have 3 of these puppies that they're raising it's beneficial for the dogs, but also the folks there. So that was like, that's only a few months in the works now, but that was a really cool. I was so blessed to be asked to be involved with that. So
That's an amazing way to give back.
yeah, I've loved it. So, and the dogs as well as the folks there teach me far more, and they've been so much greater than I have for
Mm-hmm.
them. Like, and they probably don't know it, but it's so true.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I was going to talk about this before you talked about the prison ministry thing, and now it's going to make you seem like an amazing saint, and you are an amazing person. So you're not going to the 2025 games partly because you're going to a mission trip in Panama?
Yeah, I'm heading down there in a few weeks, so
Yeah.
I'm very excited. This will be my third trip to Panama. In Panama, my church has sent missionaries who have started the first and only special needs orphanage there.
Wow.
It's an incredible experience. The public orphanages in Panama just don't have the resources or knowledge to really care for these children like they should. So they'll take them into this orphanage. They get occupational therapy, they get physical therapy, speech therapy, daily.
Mm-hmm.
They've had, I want to say 10 adoptions to this point, of those kids so they can move new kids in, but they still provide all those services and support those families after that. It's such a beautiful thing.
Wow. And is the special needs children, is it mostly like ID, like intellectual disabilities, or is it all kinds of disabilities?
It is everything.
Okay.
My very first trip was 2019. I fell in love with this young girl that had cerebral palsy.
Mm.
And it was the craziest thing that she had such a difficult time walking, but all she wanted to do was walk. So, it taught me so much just about the will and, very severe clubfoot. But if you'd walk with your hands in hers and kind of walk behind her and
Mm-hmm.
help her take steps. If you put her down for 2 minutes, like she wanted back up. So it was so cool. But there is a wide spectrum of disabilities and varying conditions they're working with, and they just do amazing work. So very excited.
What's that experience like for you?
It's awesome. It's difficult to see, but to know that these folks are caring for lack of a better term, like the lowest of low folks, in these children, it is such a beautiful thing. Like you leave there, I want to bring them all home. That part's difficult.
Yeah.
But it ultimately it is difficult to kind of go see, but to hear the stories and to hear God working through them is amazing. So it really fills my cup selfishly
Mm-hmm.
going there to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think it's selfish though on your part. Like, I think there's something, we've spent 2 hours together in the last 24, which is funny. But it's like, there's something about you and your countenance and who you are that I think is exuded when you talk about these things. Like, you have a deep desire, I think, to help others, whether they're humans or dogs, to make a difference in the world and to help people see their potential, to feel loved, to feel cared for.
Yeah, that's really what it's about for me. I do sometimes struggle to care for myself first. But yeah, it's such a wonderful thing to hear these stories, to go witness it. It would be a disservice to not come back and talk about the stories that are unfolding there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you're right about forgetting to take care of yourself. I think there's a lot of adaptives on this call who have really big hearts, or a lot of adaptives listening to this who have really big hearts who would be like, yeah, I'm probably guilty of that too.
Yeah, exactly. But
and if their partners are listening, their partners are like, yeah, they're definitely guilty of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about CrossFit and kind of how you got into CrossFit, but let's actually just kind of get it out there. So you're an adaptive athlete, and for anybody who's maybe followed you on social or seen the memes that you've been in with Roderick and Memes for Time, tell us a little bit about what makes you an adaptive athlete and how you got into adaptive CrossFit.
Sure. What makes me an adaptive athlete is spondyloepiphyseal dwarfism. It is a slightly more rare type of dwarfism than the most common achondroplasia. So myself and my middle brother were impacted by this. I have one older brother than that, who is average height, and my parents are average height. Um, Ironically enough, my dad is well over 6 feet tall. So spondyloepiphyseal dwarfism, very rare. We don't know of many families documented, in medical journals, maybe 10.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be, still desired there for learnings and whatnot. But my brothers and I, or my brother and I, as well as the rest of our family, have constantly growing up been asked to be in studies to give blood. So there's definitely some work going there to determine, genes and whatnot. But very rare type of dwarfism. I stand at about 3 feet 10 inches tall.
Okay.
Fully grown, obviously, and roughly about 85 pounds.
Okay. So when we think about those stats, I mean, then when it comes to doing CrossFit, for you, like what are like 1 rep maxes and that kind of stuff take a different, I mean, percentage of body weight, they would look different.
Yeah. I'd say, folks with dwarfism, you could, I guess, make the argument range of motion. We're squatting. We don't have a whole lot to move. But I'd say we're uncharacteristically strong, though. So, back squat, we were at 95% of our perceived 1 rep max last week, and I hit 185.
Wow.
I mean, and then, deadlifts, it's kind of weird, because when I stand and reach for the bar, like I don't really have to bend over much. So it's different. I'm not really going around my knees. The bar is already pretty much at my knees.
Okay.
So
it's a hang. I mean, it's essentially like a hang deadlift in some way.
Very close to, yeah. But I would say folks with dwarfism are like uncharacteristically strong. Whether or not I would desire to go much heavier than that, if I could, it kind of is something I've been battling with, simply because dwarfism does come with some spinal issues, some neck issues, some scoliosis there.
Right.
So when you think about fitness being for wellness, it's like I'm 35 at this point. What is the point of putting 200 plus on my back?
Or going overhead with a heavy load, or
Totally. So just kind of the trade-offs, but uncharacteristically strong, I would say. Mikey and the other folks in my division are incredibly impressive. And then I guess the second part there, how did I get into CrossFit? I grew up in a small town, so I went to a high school. The graduating classes were anywhere from like 80 to 90. And it was actually a 7 through 12 school. Everybody was in the same building. There was still junior high versus senior high, but everyone's together. Everybody knows everybody. Why I bring that up, being such a small school, I actually was able to make the varsity basketball team.
Oh my gosh.
At that point, it's just really about numbers. I would not be able to go anywhere else, that was actually fielding a full team. But I was active. I played basketball. I played tennis in high school, and I was a swimmer for our community for years.
So athletics has always been a thing for you. You've kind of been comfortable in athletic pursuits.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's kept me active. It's kept me healthy. I didn't play a whole lot. I'll just throw that out there. Um, but athletics has been there. The seed was planted early. There were a couple of like absolute no's from my parents, and I totally appreciate that. Wrestling, football.
Okay.
Not that I desired to, but it makes total sense. Um, and then fast forward through college, I moved to Raleigh. I was doing some like YMCA stuff, group classes. They were
Yeah.
fantastic, pretty much, everything I needed. But a friend from high school moved down to Raleigh, and I was scrolling Instagram one day, and her post tagged News River CrossFit. And I didn't know of CrossFit. I didn't know News River CrossFit. The only thing I knew was that the News River ran through North Carolina. So I like click on it because I'm like, oh, okay, like now she lives in Raleigh, and it's 20 minutes, 25 minutes from my house. So I reached out and I said, hey, are you visiting, or is this like, do you live in Raleigh now? And long story long, that gym, she was adaptive herself. That gym and that gym owner was heavily involved in the creation of WheelWOD.
Was that John Prescott?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Friend of the pod.
Yes. Yeah, John's excellent. He changed my life in so many ways. Between him and Logan Aldridge, who was at the gym at the time, he was in Raleigh. I just went. The hardest part was walking in the door, and just we had a conversation. He obviously had this army of adaptive athletes, but had never worked with someone with dwarfism. So he made it very clear that he was going to learn from me as much as I was going to learn from him. And I think that fostered such a cool, welcoming, and safe environment for me to get started. So
that's so huge. I mean, I remember the first CrossFit gym I walked into as well. Like just that it had to have been welcoming. I mean, if it hadn't been, I think I would have just bounced right off of it. But the fact that it was sort of accelerated my journey into it a little bit. And similar to you, I kind of fell off during COVID and worked out in my garage for a while. But then I did get back into a local affiliate, which then kind of helped fuel me a little bit more. I couldn't keep going in my garage. I was not holding myself accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so you found that community in like 2018? Is that what?
2019.
Okay. 2019.
Yeah. Middle of the year. And I think 3 months into my CrossFit journey there, Wadapalooza online qualifiers were happening, and I was hearing all these cool stories that they had an adaptive division or whatever. So I did them. I did not place, but they have an open division. Anyone, it's just first come, first serve. So probably 2 months later after that, like 4 or 5, maybe 6 months into my CrossFit career, I'm on the floor of Wadapalooza in Miami. My parents came for that. They were watching all the workouts, and like that was super special to me. And the only reason I know is 2019 Waza was February of 2020 is because I got home the next week, and I believe I had COVID before we knew what it was.
Yeah.
So it was right after I'd started in February of the next year.
Okay.
I did Waza.
So your parents went and saw you compete at Waza. How many other adaptive athletes were there? Like, was that your first time meeting kind of the bigger community?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so new to it. First time actually, Mike Widdis and I competed both in the open division. First time I had met another dwarf doing CrossFit in person.
Wow. Yeah.
We had communicated, but yeah, and Waza does it right. We got to be on each of the stages, and the one at night we're under the lights, and it was just such a cool experience. So,
what did your parents? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yep, go.
So, no, so I always want to hear people like say what their parents thought the first time they watched them do it. Because I think it's different than watching you do basketball or any other. I thought there's something about CrossFit and maybe even adaptive CrossFit where it just, I don't know. Like my mom was really shocked the first time, like emotional, like, really
Mhm.
surprised that we're able to do this kind of stuff. What was your experience? What were your parents' experience like?
It was the exact same thing. And that's kind of where I was going to go. The I don't think they quite understood. Obviously, an outsider of CrossFit, they're like, "Why are these crazy people doing this crazy stuff?" Um, but I do think it was super special, and I think part of that was the fact that Stouty's kind of crazy himself.
Okay.
So one of the workouts was like 50 D balls over the shoulder. And
Oh,
here I
wow.
am. I'm like 85 pounds. I'm relatively new to CrossFit. I probably at that point hadn't even picked up anything close to 75 pounds. But like we line up, it's under the lights one night. My parents are front row, and there's a 50, 75 pound over the shoulder D balls, which like essentially body weight for
Yeah.
me. And they're massive, right? So I'm like bear hugging them to get them up, and it was just so surreal. There's a really cool picture of me with the D ball. There's a
Mm.
video of me finishing that workout and hugging John, like, and my parents were there. It was just really cool. So, super special moment.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. And for that to be kind of your first competition then, and then you did the 21 and 22 games,
Hmm.
took 23 off and did 24.
Yep,
Yep.
exactly. The only other thing I would say, I'm sure my mom will listen to this and appreciate it. That night we were supposed to do a swim in the bay, uh, and I was amped. I was a swimmer growing up. I'm a very strong swimmer. Her motherly instinct took over and was panicked that we were about to dive into the open water and it's dark,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they have
That's
jet
true.
skis, they have boats and everything. Last minute, they realized that the dock was going to be too high. Not only the short stature, but some other folks in the
Mm.
division was going to be too high to pull us out of the water.
Thank God they realized that.
Yeah, so they canceled. They switched out the swim for a ski erg. But to this day, my mom, it probably haunts her to this day that like I was super amped. I'm ready. I got goggles on, ready to go, and they canceled it. So
Wow.
I think I wore my goggles on the ski erg anyways.
Anyway, it's
Just
just for kicks. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So then I think in 22 at the Wheelwad Games, there was a swim with sandbag squats or something like that. I think I've heard about that one. Did you get
Yeah.
some redemption there?
It was actually my division has some really good swimmers.
Okay.
21 had a max 5 minute meter swim.
What?
So it was 5 minutes for max swim, and I don't think I did well, to be honest. Relative to my division. Um, but the 22 event for us, the pool was 50 meters,
Mm-hmm.
but because there was a sandbag at one end, we were only doing 50 meters. It was out to midway and back. And
Oh,
I really struggled. There was a rope that we had to touch, and like finding the rope
yeah, yeah.
was, treading and finding the rope was a little different for me. So no, I didn't do terribly well in that one either.
Okay.
But I love swimming though.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
What's one goal that you have for this year? It doesn't have to be fitness related either, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. A big part of my life is fitness. I always tell people I, I would think I'm a relatively interesting person. I'd like to think anyhow. Um,
Yeah.
but my day to day is relatively boring. I spend a lot of time with my dogs. I spend a lot of time in my day job, and then I spend a lot of time fitnessing. So, my goals usually revolve around that. My main fitness goal, I just, like you mentioned, I went from my garage. I was kind of losing motivation to a CrossFit box again. And I think my main goal with fitness is not necessarily quantitative,
Hmm.
but it's getting back to enjoying fitness, doing it for the benefits of my health. You know, I love David Goggins, whether for better or for worse.
I'm not
Uh,
familiar with that person.
okay, he's an ultra marathoner. He was a Navy SEAL,
Oh, okay.
very motivationally driven, I'd say. Um, his quote is performing without purpose, right? It's very
Hmm.
easy to sign up for a competition and grind till the competition. Um, but when you have no purpose, a specific purpose that you're trying to accomplish or train for, that's when the real kind of the grind and the kind of next level kicks in. And I love that because I think my purpose now has just become wellness. Like
Hmm.
I don't have a desire right now to compete, not even really to PR. Yeah, I'm really training without purpose right now, just to live a better life for myself, my dogs, my family. So I guess
Yeah.
that's my goal.
You mentioned earlier when you were talking about your dwarfism that that it has like skeletal issues or spinal issues and that kind of thing. And I would assume that fitness done for wellness would also mean making your bones stronger in some ways by just putting them under load, but not under max load, just kind of getting them trained and that kind of stuff. Is that part of it for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. After I made it was a hard decision, right? The San Antonio, the environment, the community, just the support there, it was so incredible. And I have no doubt in my mind that Vegas will be that for yourself and for everybody. I would love to go to even volunteer. It's just not in the cards this year.
Hmm.
Um, but once I made that decision, it was a sense of relief in a sense that I'm not training for instance, our division usually roughly like clean and jerks for reps would be about 65 pounds
Yeah.
is typically the open or the semifinals if we're doing something with rounds and clean and jerks roughly around there. Um, that's three-fourths of my body weight, right? And so instantaneously, I switched gears and just never had a desire. Even now in this CrossFit box, they're very supportive. Like 45 pounds is perfect.
Hmm.
I may go a little faster than the intended stimulus, but I'm not waking up the next day. CrossFit should be done for wellness and to improve your life. And I'm not waking up the next day hurting so bad that I'm like hindering the rest of my daily activities, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you're back at working in an affiliate, let's say someone listening to this is a coach and they're working with an adaptive athlete with dwarfism. What's one or two things that they should be aware of that your coaches are aware of?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, it's so cool. I just recently had a gym in Georgia reach out to me.
Mm.
They had a young man walk in with dwarfism. He's 14 years old.
Wow.
And so, what can we do to help him? And, um, you know, uh, the only real thing I tell people with dwarfism, if you look at us and if you think about it, really, we can do most everything that an able-bodied person can do. It just looks a little different, right? We're not necessarily an upper or lower or seated,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, so the biggest thing is our arms don't straighten to full lockout. That definitely hinders some overhead and some pressing motions. Um, but beyond that, I just think in general, my experience in affiliates and knowing what I do about CrossFit and the L1, and I've done a coach's development course too. Um, I think adaptives are just the extreme of scaling. And if you run an effective class and you walk through the workout as it's
Hmm.
intended, I think a good coach for dwarfism would just be one that's explaining the stimulus to everybody thoroughly
Yeah.
and clear enough, right? So, for instance, I know that 8 cows on the rower is 1 minute for me.
Mm.
Um, so if there's a 30 cow row in the middle of a workout, I'll go up to them and I'll say, like, how long will that take you?
Yeah. So it should be like
And
a 12 cal row for you.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So if it's 90 seconds, I would say, okay, that's my 12 cows, and I
Hmm.
almost always hit that. If it's when it comes to weights, I'll say, hey, is this supposed to be heavy singles? Is this supposed to be something I can do 6 or 8 of? And
Yeah.
if it's heavy singles, I might push to that 65. But if it's touch and go, I'm definitely coming down to 55, 45. And
Hmm.
so I think a lot of that's on the athlete as well. And if you're newer to CrossFit, I understand you wouldn't think that way. But as an adaptive athlete, the quicker you can get to that, knowing kind of where you sit on aerobic movements, how long cows take, what weights feel like you could do more, what weights are heavy enough that you can do manageable singles.
Yeah.
The quicker you can get there, I think for any athlete in general, that's a really good place to be.
Yeah. Even hearing you say 8 cows on the rower, I'd never thought of that conversion before. But like, I'm sure there's someone listening right now who's like, oh my gosh, like that's so helpful. Because I think you think about, okay, like a women's, there's typical women sort of, modifications for cows.
Mhm.
But that's not what's happening. I mean, it's really more of your limbs are shorter. And so to ask you to do 20 cows would just take you so much longer because your power output's going to be less on something like a rower
Yeah,
or a skier. But to have like for you to know that it's 8 cows is equivalent to basically what you can do in a minute, that helps the coach know. But I think it's also good for people who might be working with an athlete with dwarfism who doesn't know that about themselves to at least know, okay, there's my scaling point, right? To
Mhm.
be able to kind of get them going in a workout. So that's really helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Put someone on a rower, a couple intervals, take a break in between, but 1 minute, see what their cows consistently come out to. And
Hmm.
and again, to bring it back to uh, the competition days, if you will, or the different mindset, there were times more often than not I missed the entire stimulus because my ego was like,
Mm,
I'm doing these 20 cows. That's
yeah.
uh 2.5 minutes of rowing for me instead
Yeah.
of maybe 90 seconds or a minute. Um so it's there's a lot of ego, I think, in the space as well. And if you could put that aside, we have Wodify, and the
Hmm.
leaderboard, it depends on what the movements are, but I fluctuate from pretty fast some days to the middle.
Dude.
It's but I'm right there with everybody.
Hmm.
So if you can get to that space where you're okay with doing what works for you, it's great.
Yeah, there's an older gentleman at my gym that's kind of become my unofficial training partner. Meaning, I will watch for what he gets on a workout, or he'll watch for what I get on a workout because we're kind of similar. He's able-bodied, right? But it's just, and it's made this really fun connection for him and I that is mutually satisfying in the ability to be like, hey, I appreciate you allowing me to, kind of draft off of you and to know, okay, this is what my stimulus should feel like. And he's kind enough to give me feedback, and that kind of stuff. So it's cool to build those kind of relationships when there's a parallel there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's super cool just to be on the leaderboard with everybody else.
Hmm.
I will say that about CrossFit. I'm big on Peloton. I adapted a Peloton bike to be able to use.
Okay.
A lot of folks in the dwarfism space will buy alternate bikes and do it on, say, maybe a different bike, maybe just watching on the iPad, like on demand. But the power of being, on the same leaderboard as everybody, you're doing the same, I don't know if it's the same work technically by CrossFit's definition, but
Hmm.
you're still doing it, and to be up there is really cool.
Yeah. You got time for a lightning round?
Absolutely.
All right, dude. All right. So what would be your ideal workout?
Oh, rowing has to be involved.
Okay.
I love rowing intervals. I was just talking to somebody today. I'm very proud at the fact that I can go almost like 2,000 meters on intervals and
Mm.
within seconds of each other.
Wow.
I love it. I love being able to build that engine
Hmm.
versus strength. Pull ups. I love pull ups. Yeah, rowing and pull ups
Okay.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. That could be a good workout.
Yeah.
Like 20 cows, 20 pull-ups for 3 rounds.
Yeah. I like it.
I don't know what that would feel like for you actually. That would be, see, that was me doing doing an average height workout where I was like, okay, I was planning that as like, oh, a minute to a minute and a half for each, but actually maybe it should be 12 cows and 20 pull-ups.
Yeah, I might have to do this now. Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. 3 rounds
Yeah.
for time. What is your favorite way to spend a rest day?
Oh man, that's such a good question. Resting, but I love rest. I love
That is the
sleep.
correct answer, actually. A lot of people would say CrossFit.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Thursdays, our gym program's nothing, and Sundays, our gym is closed.
Wow.
Um, my dogs keep me active, so
Hmm.
and I love that. Whether it rain or shine, getting out in the morning and then after work, it's like so peaceful to me. It's a reset. I used to go in the woods, let them kind of run. A couple weeks ago, I got nailed by some yellow jackets. So, it's definitely some dog time, walking, training, playing with the dogs. Um, I love learning. I feel like I jump around all over the place
Mm.
with learning different things. So I've been taking some classes. I do a lot of photography. Um, I'm in a social media class with Roderick right now. So just random stuff, but I just love having weird, maybe not weird, but just learning new things and having this knowledge of different stuff.
Yeah. Well, that dovetails into my next question, which is what are you obsessed with right now?
My dogs, for sure. Most days I like my dogs more than most of the people I
Okay.
encounter. Um, I would say I'm very close to getting back to fitness for fun. Like
Yeah.
I've switched from evenings to mornings at the gym. I love starting my day that way.
Mm.
Showing up, seeing the same faces, and being supported there. Um, let's see, obsessions. Um, that might be it, I
All right.
guess.
That's okay. That's okay. One last question.
Sure.
If you have control of Spotify in the gym, what are we listening to?
Oh, good question. NF is a great motivation for me. Christian rapper, and Avicii,
Okay.
kind of some electronic, uplifting beat, Kygo, things like that nature. But I'd probably say Avicii is my favorite artist of all time. I just
That's
love so
awesome.
much of his stuff.
Yeah.
If it, if it, if the beat drops when I'm in the middle of a workout and I need it, like it's there. So
I get so hype when I'm coaching and the beat drops like when an imam ends and it's like, going to the next minute.
yeah,
Boom. I'm like, nailed it.
yes.
And then I have to remind myself, you are a coach, not a glorified DJ. Pull it back in, pull it back in.
Yeah, CrossFit's a tough space to do that. But I used to follow a couple gyms on social media that would program. They were more time based, and the class ran on
Mm,
the running clock. They would program playlists, and I know Peloton's big on their music
wow.
tracks, but this gym would do it so the beat dropped on the like minutes that they were changing.
All right. So, two final questions as we wrap up the podcast. These aren't lightning round. We can settle in
Okay,
on these.
sure.
So, if someone who is exploring adaptive CrossFit is listening to this podcast, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
just try it. I don't know what else to say. I do sled hockey. I've tried wheelchair tennis. I've done adaptive rock climbing. Um, there's so many opportunities out there. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe even CrossFit isn't the thing for you, but
Yeah.
to try it or to generalize this message would just be just try it. Find your thing. Sled hockey for me, I've loved hockey my whole life. There's nothing besides a good workout and being on the ice that gives me that feeling. So it may not be CrossFit for you. It can be intimidating, but find what works for you. Be active, be involved. I think it only good things can come from that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Especially finding community.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if we were to stick to the CrossFit space, I guess it would be to find someone that's willing to listen, to work with you. Again, I owe so much to John Prescott, but when he acknowledged that he was going to be learning as much from me as I was from him, that's such a cool feeling.
Yeah.
To hear that, it makes you feel good. So, the fit is also important.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Final question.
Sure.
If you could go back and encourage a younger version of yourself, what would you tell him?
That's a good question. That's really funny. Roderick in our challenge just kind of asked that and to make content about it.
Yeah.
My message is one that Kevin Ogar usually, emphasizes pretty heavy at competitions and just in the wheel wad space, adaptive space. And that's just that a lot of us have grown up being told what we can't and shouldn't do, and it stifles what people are willing to try or do before they even try something. So I would just encourage a younger me to do, I'd say, a lot of what I have done, which is just jump in, try stuff. The can'ts and the shouldn'ts are somebody else's limitation on what you're capable of. So, it may come with some hard work. You may try really hard and still fail, but there's lessons to be learned in that too. So yeah, just I understand that medical professionals are extremely skilled and talented, and I do not want to discredit that by any means. But I do think that every individual is unique. And a lot of us in this space are far more capable than what somebody might imagine. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Sean. This has been so much fun getting to know you, getting to talk to you. I'm looking forward to the content that you're going to put out as you're kind of growing in this course that you're doing with Roderick too. I think you've got a great voice in the space, and so it's going to be cool. So where can people follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, SREBERLE.
Okay.
So just my initials and my last name. Yeah, it's on Instagram, and I don't do TikTok or anything else really.
Yeah, me either. That scares me.
Yeah.
It's too much. Yeah. Well, hey, Sean, thanks so much for being on the podcast, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Matt. This was amazing.
Thanks. I'll see you, man.
Take care.
I loved getting to share Sean's story with you all. Sean is amazing. I mean, as you may have caught in our conversation, we actually talked 2 nights in a row. The first night we were planning on recording, and then we just kept talking, and we didn't get a chance to record by the time our time was up. So we got back on Zoom the next night to actually record this episode. And I'd be lying if I said that's the only time that this has happened on this podcast. Because here's the truth. Adaptive athletes are amazing. And when we get together in community, we just want to talk. We want to get to know each other. We want to hear each other's stories. And that's what happened on this episode for sure. We had to cut some stuff from the conversation that I'm sure you all would have loved, including a little nugget where Sean and I discovered that we had both in our youth been acolytes at United Methodist churches and remembered some of the old hymns and liturgy and that kind of stuff. But we had to wear skirts and walk fire basically down the center aisle of the church. It's not what I wanted to leave you guys with. What I wanted to leave you with was an encouragement to find adaptive athletes in your community. Reach out to nonprofits in your area that might be working with kids or young adults with disabilities and encourage them to come try out your community, try out your box, try out your CrossFit gym. Maybe that's exactly what these kids and these young adults need to bring up the next generation of adaptive athletes. You can follow Sean on Instagram at SREBERLE. That's Sean R. Eberle. And while you're online, invite listeners to subscribe, rate, and share the podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode. Till then, I'm Matt Hotho, and I'll see you later.